This is some of the best swimming that I've ever seen. Hey, Brenton here from Effortless Swimming. At the moment, the Australian Olympic swimming trials are on. So the athletes are trying to qualify for the Olympic Games in 5 weeks' time. And we've seen some incredible swimming. And one video I want to show you today is a swimmer, Ariane Titmus. She was just off the 400 meter freestyle world record and just off the 200 meter freestyle world record. And that was a record that was held in 2009, or broken in 2009, in a super suit. So it's 12 years old, and she's edging that super suit record. So some really exciting swimming. Now today I want to show you this 400 freestyle. I want to break down how she went through the race and also some technical aspects of her stroke, because we obviously love to look at that stuff as well. Now, in terms of how she approached the race, her stroke rate for the majority of the race was up around 90 to 92 strokes a minute. She starts off around 91, 92 strokes a minute in the very first 50, and this is her here. And you'll see her with that fairly fast rating. All right, 91, 92 strokes a minute. Then as she settles into the race, she goes just below 90. She's around 86, 87 strokes per minute as she then settles into the next 1 and 200 meters. And she finishes the race, the last 100, in that low 90s, 91, 92 strokes a minute. And then she finishes off the last 50 with a stroke rate of around 99 to 100 strokes per minute. So we'll just skip ahead to that section of the race where she's swimming with the fast, that very fast stroke rate here. So she comes into the turn here and then she picks it up, this last 50, and she takes 42 strokes for this last lap. And here you'll see the kick starts to pick up, that rating starts to pick up, and there she is around 100 strokes a minute. So it's almost like she's finishing the race as a sprinter. It's really impressive and requires a huge engine to be able to do that, but just an amazing swim. Now, the other thing that you will notice here, compared to the other girls, is that she maintains a consistent 6-beat kick the entire way through the swim. So the whole way through, she's got this pretty impressive 6-beat kick. Now, compared to some of the other girls, and you'll see it best underwater here, all right, is have a look at their kick. So a lot of them are using a 2-beat or a 4-beat kick, and you'll see it in the early stages here. So the girl next to her is using a 2-beat crossover kick. And if we play this in slow motion, you'll see it. So we get this kick there, and then here, and we get that crossover, as you can see. And the legs come apart, and then another kick here. So very, very different compared to Ariane's 6-beat kick. And you'll see it from above as well. A lot of the girls, if you look at them, and we'll just play this through, are using that 2-beat kick, which is much more of that sort of distant sort of freestyle. If we were to go to 800, would her kick change? Possibly. But for her, that 6-beat kick works really well and allows her to maintain that speed the entire way through the race. Now, the other thing I found really interesting was her breathing pattern. So her breathing pattern here throughout the entire race is 2-4, 2-4. So let's have a look here off the start. She comes into the turn, and then she doesn't breathe that first stroke, she breathes on the second stroke, and we see, okay, gets a breath, then she breathes again, so that's 2. Now she goes to 4. Breathes again, now we're going to get a 2, and then back to 4. So for her left side is where she breathes, but she's able to sustain a 2-4-2 pattern, which is, she finds that rhythm and is able to stick to it the entire race. So even in that very last lap, if we cut to that, you'll see that breathing pattern for her doesn't change. We get first stroke off the wall, doesn't breathe, turns the head to the side, starts with a 2 off the wall because you want that air in once you come off it, but then she still sticks with that 4. And what I find that works really well when you're racing is set your rhythm and your tempo by finding that breathing pattern that works best for you. And there's no hard and fast rules. We've seen swimmers that have gone 2, 4, 4, 3, and then 4, 4, 2, 2. Like there's no hard and fast rules. It's whatever works best for you. But we want to try and stick to that same breathing pattern every single lap that you're going. And if you're doing open water, similar thing. Find that same breathing pattern that works for you. So that was really good. Now let's have a look at her. Let's have a look at her technique. We get some good close-up shots as we go through. So from under the water, what you'll notice is, okay, her alignment. One of the things that we will talk a lot about is that train track position, because we want the hands to enter roughly in line with the shoulders and extend straight forwards. And we get that on both sides. So hands go, fingers first, reaching forwards. Look at that alignment through the body. Such a nice position where she's pretty much fully extended, keeping the body within this narrow corridor as she's going, and keeps that hand roughly in line with her shoulder. Now, it doesn't matter if you cross in a little bit, we just don't want the hand to cross the midline. Can get in close, nothing wrong with that, just don't cross it, try to avoid it. And again, similar thing, you can see there, such a great position. And you can see this nice length all the way from her hip through her torso, her shoulder, and her arm. That's when we get the lengthening of those muscles, and then you can contract them back, which you can see through there. You get this nice sort of snap-back effect through there. So that's the first thing that we can see is that alignment. The other thing you'll notice is the eyes are slightly forwards. You know, she's not looking straight down. And it's a common misconception that we have with a lot of athletes is that they think they need to look straight down because they're told they need to do it. But you'll see a lot of the elite swimmers, particularly a lot of the distance swimmers, will look slightly forwards. And you can see that there with her. Now, it doesn't mean we're looking straight out in front, but 0 to 45 degrees is ideal. Anywhere in that range is fine. Now, you'll also see, in terms of her rotation, we haven't got the direct front-on view, so we can't see that, but for her, there's this fairly even rotation from her left side through her hips and her shoulders through to her right side as well. So for her, she's a very balanced swimmer. Now, it's not to say that everyone needs to have that symmetry to the stroke. There's a lot of good swimmers, particularly distance swimmers, that have more of a loping sort of stroke where they're a little bit more rotated and a little bit longer on one side than the other. But for Ariane, it is just very, very stable and balanced. The other thing you'll notice here is she presses back just past her hip. So exiting near her upper thigh there, just past her hip. And then on this side as well, similar thing, exiting just past her hip, almost brushing her thigh with that thumb. The other thing that I like to point out here is the path of the hand. Now, sometimes when we have swimmers come to clinics, they can be very ineffective with their movement because of how far they're traveling side to side. Now, quite a while ago, they used to teach a big exaggerated S-shaped curve as you're moving through the water. But if you look at it, it's like a long S. So if we were to trace her fingertips here, what you'll see is that the fingertips, they're following this path here. Comes in and then finishes there. So it's like a really long S-shaped curve. So it's not going to be completely straight. It's not going to be this huge out sweep, in sweep like that. No, it's quite a long S shape. And it's like the hand and the forearm is trying to find the strongest, the most effective position as the body is rotating. So it's allowing her to do that. So that looks great. And you also see, it gets him pretty close to that center line through this part here. But again, there's nothing wrong with it. The main thing is we just don't want to cross that midline. That's what we want to try to avoid. And you also notice that the fingertips face down. So here, fingertips are pointing down to the bottom of the pool. They continue pointing down, There, come across a little bit as she moves into the in-sweep phase of the stroke. And then as she goes back to the out-sweep, the fingers remain pointing down. So the only time we want the fingertips to perhaps not point straight down is through this in-sweep phase, which is here. Then sometimes the fingertips will point there a little bit, but they do correct fairly quickly. So just really, really nice technique. You also see how quickly she gets her head back into the water. So with this stroke rate of low 90s, you'd think that, how is she going to get her head back, in time that quickly to be able to get into, to have it sort of back centered by the time she's really going through this power phase of the stroke. But you can see it here, her eyes are back down when this hand is just past the shoulder, which is amazing with that sort of stroke rate, because if she were to linger with her head out of the water, it means that she's probably going to have a bit less power and control over what happens with this arm. Because sometimes we'll see people when they're swimming is they're taking too long to get the breath. They'll turn to the side and then the head's still out and this arm's gone in and the head's still out there. No, get that head back fairly quickly. You want to be pretty snappy with it, as you'll see here. So as we play it through, head comes back fairly quickly, along with that other arm coming through. Now from this angle here, I really love this angle too. You can see with her recovery, okay, she's got this nice, what you call a high elbow recovery, but it's not exaggerated. She's not coming up super high with that arm at all. She's got the arm out to the side, the angle's around about 100 degrees there. So it's comfortable, it's within range of what's comfortable for her. And so there is no need to come over really high with that elbow, okay? It's not a normal or a comfortable position. So I certainly encourage that slightly wider recovery of the arm. And you can see the hand just clears the water there. And I love this entry. You'll see about a 45-degree turn of the hand. So it's actually thumb first. And then and that's basically fingers first as well, with the elbow slightly up. And then she slides the hand forwards and just straightens that arm as she goes through. Similar thing on this right-hand side. As you can see there, similar sort of angle that we're seeing there through the arm. So around 140 and perhaps a little bit less there. And then similar thing there, she goes fingertips first there, so less of a turn of the hand, but still fingers first, and just a really nice entry. So that's also a really good angle. Now from above, we can see some of those things like the alignment. She's swimming on those train tracks. You can see she's really staying on that skewer. So one of the ways you might think of your swimming is on a skewer. So imagine your spine, your head has got this skewer through it. The head stays centered the whole time, even when you turn to the side to breathe. You can see that there. Still stays very centered and on that skewer. And that's what allows her to keep that balance in the water. So she's not shifting the head all the way off to the side to breathe. She remains centered, just turns and comes back very quickly. Now, if we have a look at the timing of the stroke as well, one thing that you might notice with this is, even though she's got this stroke rate of 90 to 100 strokes a minute for the majority of the race, she still stays front quadrant. Now, if you don't know what front quadrant means, it's basically this. If we split the body into 4 quarters, so you've got 1, 2, and 3 there. So you've got the 4 quarters. The front quadrant is this one here. And if you're swimming front quadrant freestyle, it means that there's always something in front of the head. That's all it means. Now you'll see with her here, even though she has got this fast stroke rate, if we draw this line here, okay, there's still something out in front at all times. This side as well, you'll notice it there, okay, still front quadrant. So she remains front quadrant even with this very fast stroke rate. Okay, and you can see that there. Now, if you've seen our channel, seen some of our videos, you know that not everyone needs to be front quadrant, but the majority of swimmers are front quadrant. So that's why I encourage most of the people who come to our clinics and I work with online in our membership, is that you probably want to be working towards that front quadrant sort of stroke. And it doesn't need to be a whole lot. We don't want to play catch up out the front where you're just stopping and pausing, but a good freestyle will often be front quadrant. So that's what we try to encourage with the majority of swimmers there. So just really, really nice swimming here. So let me know in the comments whether you saw this swim or not. It's being broadcast on Amazon Prime, and yeah, her 200 freestyle, go and check that out. It's on YouTube as well. It is a fantastic swim. So I'm just really excited for what's to come at the Olympics in 5 weeks' time, and to see her go head to head with Ledecky and see what comes of it, because if they're able to push each other, there could very well be a world record broken. So I'm looking forward to that. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments whether you've seen this race and if you're watching any of the Olympic trials going on at the moment.